Hello, welcome to this new playlist that I've just created. It's going to be slightly different, as you can probably see. Yeah, anyway, let's just do it. So why am I doing this? I've got my notes here, so it's just going to be raw. Why am I doing this? I think because hiking has always played a hugely positive part in my life, so I wanted to do this little series of videos because of that. It's always had an impact on my mental health in a good way, so I wanted to share that. And I've also seen it have a really positive impact on other people's mental health too. I also want to share my story. I've got some fun little stories to tell, so I wanted to share those too. I hope that I can put these out and interest people and they like the idea, and then I can hook up with more people and do interviews and we can have a bit of a chat and share ideas and experiences. I think that would be really cool. So that's why I'm doing this. But today, what I want to cover is the following things. I'm going to cover why I started hiking, how it came about. I'm going to cover where it has led me in the past and then where I'm at today. And that'll give you guys like a good understanding of why I'm making these videos and why I am a mountain leader. And then we'll see where this goes. So firstly, why I started hiking. I started hiking when I was, I would say, early teens, like 10, 11 years old. My family split up, mum and dad split up, and I was at an age where it actually kind of traumatized me quite a lot when I think back. And one thing that happened during that time was my mum and dad the good thing was they kept active. So my dad took me out hiking into the Yorkshire Dales a lot, and my mum kept me busy playing squash and things like that. So I was active as a young person, and I'm grateful for that. And the most prominent experience I had hiking when I was young was my dad taking me on the Yorkshire Three Peaks, and it was basically like the hiking clown. It was when I think back, I just think of all the mistakes that he made, and I thought, yeah, I don't want to. When I'm taking my kids out, I want to be. When I'm older, I want to be on it. Like I want to know what I'm doing. But it did good. We got around there safely. So that's why I started hiking. It just was prescribed to me, I guess. So where has it led me? Well, I very quickly realised that if I stayed at home, I was going to become more dysfunctional than I already was as a teenager. So I took it upon myself to join the army and the infantry, and obviously that included a heck of a lot of going to the mountains, doing lots of exercise down in Salisbury Plain, Gaylord Head up in the Highlands. We travelled around, we went to Gibraltar, we did exercise out in Gibraltar, and yeah, so I got this wealth of experience. I've been out, and then I got to do it as, say, like active duty in Northern Ireland. We would patrol the streets for hours on end, and there was a lot of map reading involved with that. And so it was kind of prescribed to me. It was all these experiences are other people saying you're gonna do it, but at the same time, it was like filling my subconscious with positive experiences of hiking, being out in the hills, map reading, all the systems that we use as mountain leaders, I suppose. I left the army in 2006, I think it was 2006. Yeah, 2006, and then I had a year of craziness, partying, yeah, just. And then I came out of that year and I was like, I need to do something with my life. And so I went to South Africa. I saved up, I worked hard, went to South Africa. And while I was out there, I went hiking quite a lot while I was out there. I went up into Lesotho, we went on a trek in Lesotho. It was more like a Land Rover experience, but we were up in the mountains. I did some bushwhacking in the Valley of 1,000 Hills in KwaZulu-Natal, and it was amazing. I had so much fun, and I remember thinking while I was in South Africa, I need to help people through the outdoors, and I had this like elaborate plan to put a climbing rope on a cliff and get people to climb up the cliff and explain to them, do a talk afterwards saying, you know, the climb represents the life and the difficulties, but if you keep going, the rewards, like getting to the top, seeing the view, are immense. So keep working hard, keep soldiering on. So I had that idea. I was very inspired, I suppose, by what I saw out in South Africa. Also very upset. It was traumatic. It was upsetting, but I learned a lot from it. I was in a good place and I learned a lot from it. So I came home and I just hit the ground running with doing my CWA Climbing Wall award, so I could instruct people rock climbing indoors. I did my SPA single pitch, I think it's called Rock Climbing Instructor Award now, and that meant that it was just the training course, but it meant that I could go and assist on rock climbing sessions. And I did my mountain leader training and then eventually assessment, and it was that drive of wanting to help people through the outdoors that got me there. And I went to uni. I felt like, because of South Africa, because of the experiences that I'd had then and before, I suppose, I decided I was going to go to uni and study youth and community work, and actually then go and teach young people about life through the outdoors, through the mountains. I thought that would be a good idea, so I went to uni as a mature student and studied youth and community work, a degree in youth and community work. Whilst I was doing that, I was now qualified, so I was doing freelance climbing instruction to get some money. I could work it around my studying. And then one day I just started writing this proposal, just an idea, I suppose, of how I would approach life lessons, how I would approach giving somebody confidence out in social environments, how I would approach using the outdoors, using these skills and drills and communications that we use as mountain leaders and climbing instructors, how I was going to use that to then develop a lesson which could essentially help somebody's mental health, to build the confidence, to stop social anxiety, all those sorts of things. So I was just writing these ideas down as I was also studying youth and community work and doing the freelance climbing instruction. And then I landed a freelance job at a climbing wall in Yorkshire, and it was with a group from the NHS called Creative Minds. And they came in and they just brought these guys pretty much straight from hospital who were all living with early stage psychosis. And I just started implementing this idea that I had. I didn't tell them, I just started running my sessions that way. And they were impressed. They really liked what was going on. And I followed through with it. I basically just said to them, look, I've done a lot of research in this. I've done a lot of studying towards it. If I was to give you a proposal, would you consider funding me to run a course of therapy for a year or season, and they said, give us the proposal. I gave them the proposal, they accepted it, and I got funded. That funding then was, after the first year, that funding then was continued for another year because we won the NHS Award of Excellence, and yeah, it was amazing. The reason that we won it was because we took somebody from essentially hospital, and then they were running the sessions pretty much, and then now that person is qualified and runs those sessions voluntary. So I created a sustainable course of therapy, and it's still, as far as I'm aware, running today. Sorry if there's lots of slurping in this one. That was a massive, like, it blew my mind. I couldn't believe that had happened. But once the funding stopped, because it was running voluntary, I was then kind of left in this hole of a place where I didn't have the experience to think forward. So it just came to a stop. And I managed to get some work with the youth service back down in Yorkshire, and that went quite well. I ran a climbing youth group and took them out and did mountain leader work with them as well, and just using the same principles or the same system that I'd used with the NHS. And then I decided that I was going to take a break from competing for funding and chasing money all the time, because that's essentially what you're doing when you run a course like that. You're chasing money constantly whilst trying to run good sessions. And so I decided that I was going to go into like more of the corporate side of mountaineering. So I explored that area, and I didn't like it working for the climbing walls that are more money orientated. I just felt like that on the surface they're packaging their experiences like you're going to get this wonderful mountain experience, but when you're actually working in those places, it's money. It's all about money, and that killed it for me. I didn't like it. I kind of felt it's not just money, you're playing with people's lives as well when you're taking them out into the mountains, and I just think money overweighed that a lot, and I didn't like it. It didn't sit right with me, so I moved away from that area and just went back to heading out into the hills for my own personal pleasure. I got myself a nice little job in a bistro, and at that time my partner was real sick, so I needed to be closer to, sorry, there's a car going past. I needed to be closer to home. So the mountains became my solitude, my escape from this crazy life that I had going on. Like, I was coming home, caring for my partner, going to work, and then getting out and going to the mountains and just running. And I started trail running at that point, and I just felt amazing. I was moving so much better through the mountains. I really homed in on my skills in the mountains, my experience. I stopped trying to give and I started taking a little bit, and that really helped me. And I think trail running, I'm going to go back to trail running at some point. I've got a few injuries that I'm sorting out at the minute, but I'm thinking after the Pennine Way in September 2019, trail running will be back on the cards, because I've never felt better as I did when I was trail running. That kind of summarises up to now. I recently, 2 years ago almost, started working back in youth work, and I got the job I currently do as a mountain leader. I wanted to give back through my skills again, so I went for a job. It's working with young people, and the whole emphasis before getting the job, the interview was to use my skills as a mountain leader and take young people out. So it's basically just doing that proposal that I did with the NHS again, and just helping people through the outdoors, which I can do. So I've proved to myself I can do that. However, whilst I started taking that on, I really started looking at what I want out of this. What do I want to create out of, from my experience? What do I want? What do I want to be working for somebody else? Do I want to be doing the same things that I've done in the past? Is that what I want? And that kind of brings me up to where I'm at now. I feel like the last 2 years, I suppose, I've been really working at how to brand myself, how to talk to people better, how to communicate using the mediums that we've got, using social media, using language, body language, using the tools that I have at my disposal. So I've spent the last 2 years learning all that, and I'm continuing to learn all that. YouTube being one of those platforms. And I've decided to go down a path. I recently put a video out about it. It's not a very good video. It's heavily scripted and I don't like it. But I like the idea behind the video. The idea behind the video is that I basically say why I quit freelance mountain leading. And the reason I decided to put that video out is because I don't do it anymore. I don't want to work for other people, because what I find is I go in with the idea of how I feel, how I want to present what mountaineering is about, my approach, which I feel has been tested and proved because we won the award, we got the 3 years funding. But then when I get there, I find that I have to, it's like being a lizard, like being a chameleon. You have to change your colours, you have to change your approach to suit the company that you're working for. And I just decided that that's not something that I wanted to do anymore. And I have people quite regularly say, well, why don't you do some freelance work? And I'm like, no. It's not ethically right to start upselling your own services to somebody else's clients. I just don't think that's right. There's no friends in business and all that. However, I'm a human and I like to stick to my morals. I like to read philosophy. I like to understand mental health and mindset. And I just don't feel that that's the right way to go about things. I've noticed that there's a lot of that going on in like the hiking world as well. I mean, I watch people's videos and I think like, wow, this person must have tons of experience. And then actually it becomes evident over time that they don't, and it's something that they have thought, oh, there's not a lot going on in that genre, so I'm just gonna pick it up and like take off with it. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Go and get the experience first. Go and put the work in, put the hours in, put the miles in, and then do this. I suppose documenting the journey is a good idea. So I can't complain about that if you're going to document your journey, but document your mistakes as well. And that's why I'm doing this series, because I want to document, I want to tell you my mistakes, I want to tell you my stories. So I'm shouting about Mountain Leader Syllabus, I'm shouting about book reviews, and putting vlogs on there of me leading people into the mountains, and I'm making myself look like some kind of oh, he's got it bang on him, you know, he's hitting the nail on the head every time. And that's not the case. I've failed big time in the past. Everything from how I've communicated with the companies that I'm working for and lost work because of that. How I have neglected to read about the service or the company that I'm going to be working for, and then lost work because of that. I've failed in early days going out into the hills and making stupid mistakes. I've been rescued by the Mountain Rescue, which is quite it was a defining moment for me. That's for another video. That's for another chat. But I've made mistakes. I've put the effort in. I've put the miles in, and now I'm just starting to make these videos about it. So yeah, there's that kind of like thing going on where people on these social media platforms are seeing where there's a weakness in a niche and then they're jumping on it. And I suppose I'm trying to do that as well, let's be honest. But at the same time, I've put the background work in, and I want to talk around morals and ethics and why we choose to abide by them and why we choose to move that way. So where I am now, finishing that little bit off, is I am at this stage, I'm finding my own clients, and that's going really well. Not only through finding my own clients, I'm making some amazing friends, and it's really pushing me to dig deeper. These people are asking me questions. They're asking things of me that are making me open up the hill walking book and start reading through it again. Start making content around it. Start refining how I can, how if somebody asks me about a grid system or a grid reference or contours or taking a bearing, how am I going to teach that person those skills? And yeah, I can do that, but have I really spent the time refining it like I did with the mental health stuff? I don't think so. So I'm going to do that. That's what the videos are about on my other playlist. But also, I feel like mental health is a big part of this. Every hiker that I speak to, when they talk about their experience of coming off trail, like so through hikers, I've spoken to a couple of through hikers, and their experience of coming off trail is always they have a depression after, and you wonder why they go through that. And when you explore it with them a little bit more, you start to realise that we're designed to be out there hiking. The human body is designed to move. The human mind is designed for change, designed for move. We're a pack animal. We're designed to do that. That's what we are. So when you're doing that for a long period of time, and then you come back to these box-shaped rooms and these systems that don't make any human sense whatsoever, of course you're going to get depressed. But it's about how we then move forward with that. It's about how we can try and use that as fuel for the fire, rather than letting it consume us. And I think for me, this is a good way of doing it, talking to people and getting a response, and hopefully getting more people in this box-shaped thing with me and talking about it. So at least we can go there in our minds and we don't have to dwell on all the rubbish that goes on around us. I'm in a place now where I feel I'm moving forward with things. It's nice and steady, it's slow, but it's going in the right direction, and it's about building that as I go. Thanks for watching this episode. If you're enjoying this content, please hit that circle subscribe thing over there. Hit the bell as well, and that'll notify you every time that I upload. Hit the thumbs up button. I will see you next Friday for another episode of Hiking and Mental Health. In a bit.